Thanks everyone for attending this seminar. I especially appreciate Championsway for inviting me back again. And I just first wanted to talk about the purpose of this seminar. This can be used for two reasons. One, you may be looking to bring some people on to help you run your school, and you're looking to set up a compensation program that's fair for everyone. Or maybe you're looking to replace yourself and you want to start developing a team in which you'll be able to be promoted to more of a director of a school, and you're looking to them to more or less take more responsibility in running the school. I read this amazing quote by Harry Truman. It says, "It's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit." And that's the thing about taking this next step, especially if you're looking to promote yourself and replace yourself within the school. I'm not saying that you're going to walk away from martial arts, but rather than you being the head instructor, the main guy or the main girl, you're looking now to bring up a team in which they're going to be the main people running the dojo. And I used to be the senior consultant for United Professionals. I was also their vice president, and I literally consulted hundreds of schools. And this may be hard to believe, but sometimes this was very difficult for an owner to step out of the limelight and realize that you're actually going to take a back seat now, and your staff are going to be in the limelight, and you're going to spend most of your time training them and developing them and praising them and letting them get the attention and getting your students to fall in love with them, because you need to do that if you're going to encourage your students to follow them. And that can be a little difficult. So Harry Truman says it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. I think that you can best see how this would work if you were to look at a football team, okay? And Sensei Nick, you and I have talked many times about using football as an illustration for running staff. The heart of this employee compensation program is to replace yourself while helping your successors become successful, which ensures the longevity of the business. This is a key point, is eventually someday we're all going to be promoted to directors where we have a team running the schools for us. And the heart of this now is I've got to help them become successful, because if they're not going to become successful, one, you can't promote yourself. Two, they're not going to stick around. And three, the business doesn't have much of a future. So the real heart of this is to help them become successful. To understand the dynamics of this employee compensation program, think of a football team. There's the head coach. That would be you. And he's responsible to lead the team to victory. This is very important, that your team needs to have confidence in you, that you're going to lead the team to victory. There are the other coaches who are responsible to recruit and train the players to make a measurable contribution to the success of the team. We recruit players for one reason: to win. So part of my responsibility is to hire the right people and then to train the right people to do the job well so that we all can win. Again, just quoting Jim Collins, he says, when it comes to staff development, he says you got to have the right people on the bus, you got to have the right people in the right seats, and then you got to drive the bus. And that's the idea here, is hiring the right people and putting them in the right places. And then finally, there are the players. And their job is to execute the plan and make a high-value contribution to the success of the team. So as the owner, it's your job to develop the plan that's going to lead the team to success, to train the team players so that they can execute the plan well, and then it's their job, their responsibility to then go and execute that plan, make a high-value contribution that'll lead the school to success. Okay, 1 second. All right, there are three main reasons. Let me just make sure that I did that right. My apologies. Okay. There are three main reasons, here we go, that we follow this employee compensation program. And again, this is so important. It teaches the employees the important contributing factors of running a successful school. So there's a very important point there is I'm now going to teach my team what does it take to run a successful school? I'll teach them how to market and to enroll new members. I'll teach them how to increase the growth of a school. And of course, I'll teach them retention. The second reason why we follow this is it automatically allows team members to grow with the business and receive rewards for their effort. Very important. If I'm a staff member and I'm on a salary and I'm putting out all this effort, but I don't see myself benefiting from what I can clearly see is working because the school is growing, you're going to have problems. I once heard it explained like this. Says, Nick, imagine you were my staff member, and I took you on a nice trip through the countryside of town. And we pulled up to this gigantic mansion. I said, you know, Sensei Nick, let me tell you something. You keep working as hard as you're working, and someday, see that house over there? I'm going to own it. That's the idea, right? So we've got to be willing to show them that they get rewards for their efforts as well. And lastly, it creates a healthy work environment where people are valued based on their contribution, and team members can create their own financial future. And again, that's important. We're valuing people based on the contribution they're making, and they're able to create their own financial future because after all, a lot of that has to do with how we feel about things. Caution. You must teach your team members that the employee compensation program is a reward and not incentive. Teaching them it's an incentive will result in your staff becoming money-driven rather than people-driven. So what I explain to my staff is this. If you trust me, and you trust that I know what I'm doing, and you trust the fact that I've created the plan, and I train you well, and we execute the plan well, from all of this will come a reward. I don't want to use the staff incentive program as a carrot dangling in front of them. And the reason why? Well, it's been well said before that if you're using pleasure to motivate people, after a while the carrots just can't get big enough. I'd rather have them there because they're passionate about martial arts, and I'm going to show them. And we will say that you got to love martial arts first and foremost, and you got to love people second. So I'd rather use this as a chance to show them that, look, if you do the right things and you do them well, you can become successful at this. But I don't want them being money-driven because pretty soon everyone's just dollar figures, and they're in it for the money, and I think that's the beginning of a lot of problems. Understanding the employee compensation program. Okay, here we go. First, you must begin with an understanding of the financial budget of a martial arts school. Typically, 35 to 38% of a school's gross is designated payroll. So if you look at your school, if it's grossing $10,000, 20, 40, 50, 60, whatever, typically 35 to 38% of that gross will be contributed to payroll. So that's the first place you have to begin with your understanding of how this is going to work. Second, we typically offer our employees low salaries and high bonuses. This is because we want them to focus on how to drive the business and ensure long-term success. Let's think of the opposite for a second. If I'm doing all of these high salaries and I don't get the team to focus on what drives the gross, if they don't do those things that drive the gross, it's quite possible the gross could eventually start to decline and I won't be able to pay them the salaries. So this by majority of their income coming from the income drivers, it gets them to focus on that. Now, isn't that how it is with all of us? Isn't when we opened our school, we understood that, look, I need to get students in here to pay my rent and to eventually pay myself, and I need to keep those students. So there's no reason if I'm going to show them how to be successful at this business, there's no reason why I shouldn't show them that. I should not shield them from that understanding. I once had an employee say, well, is there any security? I go, is there any security in anything? You tell me one business that there's security in. We've been shocked over the past decade to see major businesses close down. The only security we really have is to do a job well done and to create value. And that's one of the things I need to teach them. In a satellite school, what is a satellite school? Usually when you have, in our particular circumstance, we have our main headquarters school, and the satellite schools are the other schools that we're opening up with our staff. In a satellite school, we typically have 2 full-time employees, 1 program director and 1 head instructor. Okay, the reason why I say a satellite school, My main headquarters school has over 700 students, so clearly I cannot run that with one program director and one head instructor. But as we have people step up who come to us saying they want to open schools and run schools, we will set them up in what's called a satellite school. And our plan for that is one program director, one head instructor. The head instructor is the key person. And of course, they'll have some part-time people helping them. The program director is paid a small salary and receives bonuses and commissions from new members and a portion of the school's gross. So up there, if you take a note, that's a key point that you want to write down. That they're going to get a small salary, and they're going to receive the bonus and commission from new members and a portion of the school's gross. Okay, the head instructor receives a small salary and receives bonus and commissions from gross and active count. Here's a typical, and this is one of, I won't say several, but a few different ways of doing it. But what I want to do is teach the understanding of how to set it up, and then you can be creative for however what works for your particular circumstance. But here's how we do it. The bonus and commission structure. The head instructor gets $10 for every active student and also gets 10% of the school gross. The program director gets $250 if they hit their new member goal. And for this particular school that I'm referring to, their new member goal is 18 new members. And this program director gets 7.5% of the school gross. So this is what it looks like. If the school has 200 students and grosses $35,000, the payroll budget is $12,250. How do we come to that? Well, 35% of $35,000 is $12,250. So that's our budget. I cannot allow payroll, bonuses, commissions, taxes. I cannot allow it to exceed $12,250. If you do that, you're going to be hurting your school financially. You're going to be the proverbial robbing Peter to pay Paul. You'll either be taking it out of your marketing budget or your rent budget or your savings budget. Okay, so we got to stay within that 35 to 38% bracket. The program director and the head instructor each receive a $500 per week salary. Okay, this is a $25,000 a year salary. Doesn't sound like much, but you'll see how this plays out. What does that mean? Roughly, it's about $4,333 per month for the two of them. If you take the $4,033 and deduct that from the $12,250, you're left with $7,917 to put into a bonus structure. Here's how it plays out. The head instructor, there's 200 students in that school. He's getting $10 for every active student. That means every month he's getting a bonus of $2,000. In addition to that, he's getting 10% of the gross. That means he's getting an additional $3,500. The program director gets $250 if they hit the new member goal, and 7.5% of the $35,000, $2,625. If you do the math, if you add up the program director's bonus, the head instructor's bonus on top of the salary, total payroll and bonuses comes out to $12,708, 36% of the gross, which keeps me in my bracket. If you continue to do the math, that head instructor is making $92,000 a year. And that program director is making over $60,000 a year. This is, and I do want to stress this, this is not an example on paper. I am using one of our schools. Things to be aware of when you're doing this particular payroll structure. Your total employee compensation program cannot exceed 38% of your gross. I can't stress that enough. This will include your salary and your bonuses. So if you look at the example I gave you, maybe you have to adjust things. It really doesn't matter. And I'll save that. Let me save that for the very end, okay? Once you subtract the salaries from the payroll budget, whatever's left over is what you have to set up the bonus commission program. So if you follow our lead and you decide, okay, I'm going to pay him $25,000 a year, then if you deduct that from what's left over of the 35%, That's what you have now to set up your bonus and commission program. It's important. You don't have to use the example that we did where you're paying $10 in every active student, but just keep in mind two things. You want the bonus system to be determined by the key areas you want them to focus on. That is why the program director's bonus comes from new members and gross. I want the program director to be focused on marketing and signing up new members. I also want the program director to make a valuable contribution to the gross, the 5 income generators. Secondly, the instructor. I want the instructor to be focused on active count. And I want the instructor to be focused on the gross, the 5 income generators. So you can see how we're setting up the reward system based on the areas of the business we want them to pay attention to. This is why, if you look at this last part, paying high salaries can result in employees getting comfortable and not focusing on what it takes to maintain the income. When you pay people high salaries, sometimes they just show up and they're just doing a job. If you and I just show up every day and just teach classes, then it's quite possible the school could decline in its gross, or it just may not go anywhere. We have to pay attention to the things that creates the income within the school so that I can give these people a future. Because if I can't give them a future, it's going to be very difficult for me to replace myself. The final ingredient is for everyone to know their place. Now you must teach them how to run a successful business. So what happens is that we have the person in place to the head instructor, and we have the person in place that's the program director. It's my job as the head coach to train them. I have to train my program director how to market the school. I have to train my program director how to do intros, how to do sign-ups, how to enroll people, and I have to teach them how to do it effectively. Same thing with the instructor. I've got to teach the instructor how to run great classes. I've got to teach the instructor how to maintain a strong retention, how to promote events and so forth. This is my job as the head coach. So I may not be teaching classes anymore, but now I'm teaching them how to run a successful business. Teach them how to get the gross up. Teach them the 5 income generators. Teach them how to market their school and how to sign students up. Teach them the things that you had to learn in order to become a successful school owner. Employees will welcome the training because rather than just benefiting you, it's benefiting them as well. I didn't want to do that. Sensei Nick, how does it, oh boy, how does this sound so far? I may have
sorry, Mr. Garcia, I was muted.
That's okay.
I think that was the best pay structure I've ever seen, and as I'm listening to you, I'm not in my school actively like I used to be, and I have a head instructor, partner / and we're in a very similar situation. Like this was a very rough winter. You know what I mean? Like where we had snow 18 times.
Yes.
It was very difficult, and my structure is not set up this way. I'm fortunate enough to work with a guy who's been with me for 18 years where, he's concerned too because he's like, I'm starting to worry because we're not able to put more money into marketing. We're not able to put money into improvements. So I definitely will be reviewing this with him. But I mean, just great information. I mean, just anyone that, and Mr. Garcia, I'm sure as you talk to too, this is one of the most common things that a lot of schools are having issues with. They don't know what to pay people.
It says that, Nick, this is the number one question. I won't say the number one question, but I get this question very, very often. It's always coming up where people are asking me, how do you set up? And this is, and I should stress, this is for full-time people only. We do not put anybody on a bonus or commission if they're a part-time helper. This is for someone that's really going to make a go of this and really looking to make a career out of this.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that you mentioned that was very important was, you're creating a win-win situation. And whenever we hear the stories of, this guy opened down the street, this guy left, or whatever, it's usually because it was a really poor situation for, in most cases, the employee.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that. I found that many times, and I don't want anyone to take offense to this, they just got to give themselves a checkup. but many times they will treat the employees in a way that just would be unsatisfactory if someone treated them that way. And you can't do that. You have to think, well, if I'm in their situation, how would I expect to be treated? How would I want to be treated? And you have to make it realistic. You know, these people, they have families, or they're going to have families. And, you know, I've got a lot of young guys that run our schools. When I say young, they're in their low to mid-20s. And they're thinking, hey, can I support a wife on this? I'm working really hard. I'm here every single night. I'm here on Saturdays. I kind of like to have a nice place to live, a nice car. I can't find fault in that. I mean, they're working hard. There's nothing worse than working hard and not getting any reward for it.
Absolutely. Another thing, too, Mr. Garcia, is what happens is a lot of times if you are out of the location and, you know, you're doing other things or whatever it is, you're not in there as much, working from home or whatever, and you're giving them the power to run these classes with a poor pay structure, it's only a matter of time until the person's financially stressed out. They have that conversation with the student, and then that's when it all starts. It all starts with that conversation. What's wrong? Oh, you know, I can't pay my electric this month, or I can't pay this, or, you know, and then that person, that basically ends up becoming the investor in the person to open another location. I've seen it happen 50, 60 times.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, it was like people were away on vacation in, this is a true story, in Belize, of all places, which is a phenomenal place to go on vacation. And while this person was away, 2 employees had already opened another location. They were signing people up at the existing location. True story.
Oh boy.
You know, when you can't pay your rent and you have no food, and you're traveling to Bora Bora, you know what I mean? Like, kind of, what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then we did finish a little early, so there was one thing that I wasn't prepared to share, but I will, just in case you have someone out there listening, and the question may come up, well, what if I have more staff than that? I can certainly identify with that, because in my headquarters school, we certainly have more than just one program director, one head instructor. But the rules still apply as far as the principals. You cannot ever allow your payroll to exceed the 35 to 38%, because then you'll be taking from another part of your budget to cover payroll, and that gets dangerous. And many times when I was a consultant, I would see school owners take from their marketing budget to cover payroll expenses, and that's just a slow death, because now you're not doing your marketing to get new members in there, so the school can't grow. You know, so they gotta. But what you could do is you could set up. You could still pay your program director that same structure, $250 for 18 new members or 20 new members, and 7.5% of the gross. But what you could do with the other instructors is you could set up for them a payroll pool, where the $10 per active student goes into a pool, the 10% of the gross goes into a pool, and then they divide the pool up. And we actually do that at my headquarters school, and we divide the pool up not evenly, because one of my head instructors has been there forever. So he gets a greater portion of the pool. But again, it's working. They're still making very good money that they can certainly support a family off of, no question about it.
So, Mr. Garcia, before we're going to have Vahid's actually going to join us. He's going to do a quick demonstration of the Purple Mind software. But I think this is a question that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about. What do you do in a situation where, you know, okay, you have some type of pay structure in place? What do you think would be the best way to actually adjust and adapt to this one and implement this one that is a win-win for everybody? What would be your conversation if, you know, things were not doing too well and the pay structures were poor, but you wanted to implement this? I think that's a really important thing for school owners to understand on, like, how to do it.
I'm really glad you asked that, because that is the most difficult question right there. So we might as well tackle it, right?
Let's do it. Okay.
There's a couple of ways you can do it. Let's say your school's not grossing what it needs to gross in order to set up this. So there's 2 scenarios. There's one that your school's not there yet, but you want to implement this, and you got to get your staff on board. The second scenario is, what if you're in a situation where you pay people high salaries? How do you go back now and say, okay, I'm going to lower your salary? Oh, that's going to go over great. And you're going to get more money on bonus commission. Well, fortunately enough, I've been in both of those situations, so I can share with you a little bit how to do it, you know. The first scenario, your school's not there yet. This is easy. This is just a matter of getting, and I just walked through this with an owner, this is a matter of getting the staff together and sitting them down and just putting your heart on the table and just telling them that to create the longevity for the business, we're gonna need their help. And you want to make it so that they benefit from this. So if you start to show them, we're going to set up, right now everybody's on low salaries, remember, because the school gross is really low. Everyone's on low salaries. But if I can, with my expertise and the people that I surround myself with, if I can get the information and training and equip you, we will set it up so that we drive the gross of the school up and you benefit from it just as much as the company benefits from it. And then you show them how it works and run some numbers. Show them. Say, guys, if we get the gross up to $30,000, this is what you're looking at. Now, keep in mind, if you're an owner and you're still actively involved in the school, this is also a common question, is my income a part of that 38%? Yes, it is. Payroll cannot exceed 38% no matter who's getting paid. Now, keep in mind, owners, that you do make more money than that whatever your paycheck is, because you may have an American Express and you may get dinners every other week, or your car may get paid out of the business, or keep in mind there's savings. We shoot for anywhere from a 10 to a 20% savings every month. And technically, although that's in the bank and we want to use that for future expansion or to make improvements to the dojo, technically that's your money. So, you are making more income than just a check, but it is including that 38%. And then sit down and show them some numbers. If we're able to make this happen and get our gross up to $20,000, this is what could happen. This is the income you could kind of make. Inspiration is a very powerful motivator. The second scenario, slightly more difficult. So let's say I've got a guy and I'm paying him $1,000 to teach at my school. He's my head instructor. And I'm like, eesh, I don't really want him making $1,000. I want him making $500 a week. That's not going to be the best conversation you're ever going to have with somebody. So what you do is very simple. You sit them down and you explain the scenario and explain why. And they have to, here's what you're going to find. If people are confident in you and they're confident in themselves, they welcome the bonus and commissions. If people are not confident in yourself or themselves, they're not going to welcome it because they want the security of a salary. So what happens is we show them the system and we say, this is what happens, this is what we're going to do, and here's why. Because if we fail to pay attention to the things that drive the business, new members, gross, retention, there will be no business. We're living a lie here. We're getting this salary, but it's not going to last. We've got to spend more time on what we call the key income drivers. So now the staff members say, okay, I get that, but I'm still budgeting my money based on what you're paying me now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend. You're going to keep your salary, but we're going to pretend that I'm only paying you $500. We're going to set the whole system based on that. Keep paying him the $1,000, but pretend that you're only paying him $500. And at the end of the month, show him what his bonus would be had he been making $500. Now, what you can do, the bonus is higher, you can deduct the difference and give him what's left over. So in other words, if I'm paying you $1,000, let's say that's $4,000 a month. Had you listened to me, your bonus would have been, let's say $3,000. Okay, on top of the $500 that I would have been paying you. Does that make sense? They would have got an extra $1,000. So what I simply say is, we let this go for a few months, and then I look at it and say, I think I've proven to you enough that this can work. We need to make the jump. I've done that before, and I can say there was a lot of concern because they're on the budgeting, but they did do it. Once they started to see there was a track record that it was working and that they could actually make more money. It also did help that the main guy that I did this with was in a seminar how this was taught to me. So he got a chance to hear it, not just from me thinking that I'm going crazy. So, you can share this. Hey, this is one of the things I've learned. Learn this from a guy. Take a look, show them the numbers. Those are real numbers. We pay our staff very, very well. And that satellite school, these are two kids who I call them kids, they're in their 20s, who are running a very successful school. 200 students, they're grossing about $35,000 a month. And I've been to that school a handful of times. What does my income come out of? Keep in mind the savings. The savings of that school is far greater than, because it's that low overhead, high gross. That savings is my money. I also pay myself a commission management fee out of that school, and that's a portion of my income. So just trying to show you that it can kind of work out for everybody. You just got to have a little bit long-term vision in mind here. Does that make sense, Sensei?
Absolutely, and I think that was probably going to be one of the most common questions that everyone's asking. So I'm really I'm thinking to myself, like, how are you going to implement this? And that was just a great explanation, and it's very transparent. You know, I mean, that's I think the most important thing as well. Like, you know, so that was great.
I think you said it well. Go into it looking from their point of view. I get it. You've been on $1,000 salary a week, and you're used to that. I get it. Imagine if your boss walked into you and said, "Hey, we're going to cut your salary in half." But trust me,
right?
You'd freak out. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Garcia, he's going to come in and do a quick demonstration of Perfect Mind, and then we're going to finish up with some Q&As from the rest of the school owners. But real quick, I'm going to turn it over to Vahid.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. That was a great webinar. And just to let everybody know, we're going to have more webinars for Master Garcia and all the other, great people in the martial arts. The purpose of Championsway is to help the industry, to help all the school owners to take their school and the community to the next level. Within the questions, we got a lot of questions about the copy of the slides. We can definitely send a copy of the slides, and if Master Garcia will accept our invitation, we can have a part 2 webinar on this one to talk more about like staff training, the pay structure, how you need to train them to be a good closers at your school, and take it to the next level.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to talk about who Championsway is and what Perfect Mind does for those of you who doesn't know about Championsway, and then I'll pass it to Master Garcia to answer all your questions. So we've been around for over 16 years now. We've had over 5,000 schools using Championsway in 17 different countries. We have over 90 employees today that we've been working hard to help the industry and take the industry to the next level. The company originally was founded by Master Farid Dordar, kickboxing world champion in 1988, and he started the Championsway based on the needs that he had at his school. We had the honor to work with many great organizations and people in the industry, such as Master Garcia, Melody Schumann, and many other people who trusted us with their business. In past few years, we invested heavily in our support. Now we are offering 24-hour support. Our wait time is less than 20 seconds, and we're proud of what we offer to our clients. The customers comes first. So we learn from our mistakes, and in past 2 years, we invested heavily in our product and in the customer support. The people who join us from the very beginning, we hold their hand. We do the free import staff training. We train them on every single thing that they need to do. Teach them about business cases and what are the best practices, in martial arts schools. Perfect Mind is a system that will take care of everything in your school, from your lead management to student management to marketing, bookkeeping, billing, and everything that you can name it. The whole point for creating Perfect Mind was to have one system that can take your school to the next level. So everything will be addressed with one system, with one software. It's mobile friendly, so basically you can run your school, with your phone or over a tablet. It's web-based. You can have access to it from any place as long as you have internet connection. We have the smart attendance that you can take attendance. We'll rate your students based on attendance to tell you who's about to quit. It will show you who's thinking about to quit and make some automation behind the scene to let you know and also let your student knows. It will help you with test and rank promotion. We do have the most powerful test and rank promotion because we were the very first one who introduced this to the market, like many other things that we introduced. It's the only system that the POS and e-commerce is integrated. It will do all your reordering. It will take care of all the orders. The full integrated marketing communication will come with the system, such as email, text, and voice broadcast. There is an intelligent dashboard that any given time, how's your school doing, from lead to number of the students, active students, non-active students, how much money will go to your bank account at the end of the day. We help you with a full billing system if you wish, or with the lowest rate in the market for the direct billing that will save thousands of dollars for many schools who switch to us on our billing direct. We do have the most powerful reporting engine. You can have, we can use our system to get all your documents on cloud, to get the signature for waivers, contract, and everything else, paperless through iPad or iPhone or anything else as you wish. And as I said, it depends on how many members you have at your school. We can easily save you thousands of dollars. If you are interested to know more about Championsway, if you are interested to know more about what we can do for your school, you can contact us today at 1-877-774-5425, and we'll be more than happy to help you with all your questions and all your needs. I'm just going to pass it back to Mr. Garcia so he can answer all your questions. And thank you. I just want to thank you all for attending the webinar. We're going to have a part 2 for this webinar soon, and we'll take it from there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fahid. All right, so let's see. We're waiting for some questions to come in. All right, first question, Mr. Garcia.
Okay, I'm ready.
This makes sense, but what are the job descriptions for these staff members? What is the owner's net on this model?
First, let's tackle the question of the job description. We do departmentalize our schools. So my program director is responsible for the new member department, which means that everything from creating what we call operation creation, which is getting the phone to ring, filling the intro book, to enrolling, to doing the intros, to enrolling the student, to getting them on the mat. All that encompasses his or her responsibilities. And again, it's my job as the head coach to teach them how to do that. The head instructor, they're responsible for the floor. So we're talking obviously about teaching classes, about testing. Majority of all the retention follow-ups, private lessons, PUTV classes, pump up the volume if there's a lack of enthusiasm, DNS calls, all that in regards to student training falls on the head instructor's shoulders. When it comes to things like birthday parties, well, that's marketing. We're doing a birthday party to enroll students, so that's the program director's responsibility. However, if we do something like a women's self-defense seminar, because the head instructor usually is the highest ranking person, I'll generally have them do that. And what we also do in that case is it'll fall on the head and shoulders responsibility, on the shoulders of the head instructor to follow up those leads because they have rapport with that person already. Those are a few of the exceptions, but majority of the marketing is handled by the program director. Now, in the satellite school, the net, I think what they're asking is, first of all, we're shooting for a 20% profit. That's our goal. That's the profit of the business. The owner's net, it can be whatever you want it to be. Like I said, I pay myself a $2,500 management fee from each of the satellite schools, but all those savings is technically my money. However, I would caution you to not be dipping into that savings because you're going to need that for whether it be expansion or upgrades to the facility or to open other schools. If you're saving 20%, you certainly could take 10% out, 5% out as some type of bonus to yourself every quarter. These things are possible. I'm not an accountant, but I do work a lot with them. But I'd highly recommend talking to them about how you want to set it up that's most advantageous to you as far as tax goes. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garcia.
Do you think can you ask them, did that answer the question?
Yes. Does that answer your question, sir? We'll wait for him to come in. We have a question from RJ the Bear. What's up, brother? I've heard 18% of the gross goes into paying staff. The 35 to 38, does this include owner's pay and part-timers?
Yes. If you're going to, when it comes to the 35%, this includes everything. Okay? So if the owner is actively involved in running that school, yes, it does include theirs, and it includes the part-timers. I'm very familiar with that, where people say, hey, we only designate 20% of our salary or our gross to employees. If your school's grossing, 50, 60, 70,000 a month, that's doable. You can still pay them. You have to decide. This is going to sound very unfairly, and it's not necessarily a view that I share, but you have to decide what you think is a good salary for people to earn. If you looked at that figure and you saw, my goodness, you pay a head and start to $92,000, I would never pay anyone that much money. That's your prerogative. And you could certainly adjust everything and, yeah, probably knock that payroll down to 20%, and that guy probably make $50,000, $60,000 a year. Would he be happy? Very much possible he'd be happy. But what do you think happens? It depends what your goals are. It's very important. But what do you think happens in my organization when they find out that my head instructors are making that kind of money? More people come to me saying, I want to open a school.
Yep.
And again, if that's your goal, then if not, then I completely get it. It's not right or wrong. It's just different, and whatever's going to work for you in your situation. That's why there's certain principles to it. You definitely don't want to break those principles, but it is a pretty flexible plan that you can adjust.
Excellent. And the answer to the first question, Mr. Garcia, yes, that does answer his question.
Oh, outstanding. How do we do on the second one? 2 for 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
All right, let's see here. I like the concept. Do you base the $500 based on the cost of living in the area?
Well, if you, in the seminar, you heard me say that my guys are young. They're in their 20s. So a $25,000 salary, it's not, I don't think you can live off that, but it also does go to some of their common expenses. They're getting majority of their money from the bonus and the commissions. So let me just say this. I am flexible on that. I do have one individual in a headquarters school who, not saying anything about a 20-year-old, but this is a grown man. He's in his 40s, and he's been with me for an extremely long time. He's extremely talented, and he picks up the slack when I'm not around as far as training the team. I don't have him on a $500 salary. He's married with 2 kids, not going to happen. So we were able, I just don't want to do high salaries, but we were able to get him to a place where, hey, $40,000, could we, would that work for you? But again, I caution saying that because it is a case-by-case basis, but you want to stay away from high salaries. And the reason why is, one, you want to make sure that they stay focused on the income generators, but also what happens when the school doesn't gross a lot? Where do you get the money now to pay people when you have these high salaries? Can you take it out of savings? You could do that, but you just got to be careful about that.
Absolutely. Okay, 2 more questions, Mr. Garcia. We might need some more clarification on this one. Can you speak to employees leaving to open their own school and competing with you?
Sure. The first thing I would say is this. You want to make sure that every single employee is on a non-compete agreement, especially with this structure in place. It's very important. I'm going to teach them how to run a successful school. If you want to leave the organization, I won't say I don't have a problem with that, but okay, you want to leave the organization, but you're not going to compete with me. You're not going to take the knowledge and the training that I gave you and compete with me over it. Not going to happen. So you want to make sure that you literally have an ironclad non-compete agreement with all your employees. And when I hire somebody, and I was thinking, Sensei Nick, that maybe the next webinar should be on employee training, because a lot of these questions we handle when we hire people. If I was to hire the gentleman or the man who's asking the question, one of the things I tell them is, I'm going to teach you how to run a successful school. You're not going to compete with me, or you will not compete with me. And if that's a problem, then you can't come on board. And every single person signs that agreement. You want to go to school, you're going to go somewhere far away.
Yep. So, Mr. Garcia, another question coming in here. Could you explain, do you offer some type of consulting one-on-one coaching?
I don't. The reason why I don't, and I feel bad saying that, is because my main priority is my team. You know, I have to make sure that I continually give my best to them to help them continually reach higher and higher levels of success. And we do have, quite a few schools. However, I have partnered with Cornerman, my very good friend, Bill Storm, and him and I work close together. I do video training twice a week with Cornerman. And this video training is my staff meetings on Monday mornings with my team is recorded. This is real staff meetings. These are not pretend where I'm there, I'm with my team, and I'm teaching them our business systems of running what I basically say. I'm the head coach. I'm teaching them how to be successful. And these recordings are, these staff meetings are recorded. And then we pass them out to the Cornerman team members. So they get a chance to see, basically it'd be like you are attending my staff meetings. On top of that, I do events with Cornerman several times a year, live training where we invite people to come in and we do a lot of hands-on stuff. And then Bill's fantastic. You know, Bill he's been in this industry a long time. He's very, very good with people. He's very helpful to take the information and really break it down where you can understand it and you can implement it. And they have different levels of membership. You know, you can, like everything else, there's like a $200 a month membership, and it goes up. So I would highly recommend, if they want, they can email me, and then I'll put them in touch with Bill, because I have Bill's email, but it's not off the top of my head. And my email is kickers, KICKERS, the number 4, life, LIFE, at AOL.com. And anything that Bill can't help you with, he usually will say, hey, we got a question, can you take care of it? And then I'll either send an email or I'll take care of it on the videos that we do. So I think we could help them. Whoever's asking that question, we can certainly help them.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Bill Storm, just an amazing person, great character.
Yes, he's awesome. He's got the right heart for this industry, and he's really good with people.
All right, last question, Mr. Garcia. Let's see. Can you list the percentages for other areas you recommend? Marketing, lease, savings, and profit.
That's a great question. Let's do that one. Very important. You would spend 15% of your gross would go towards your rent or your mortgage. That would include all your CAM. 10% of your gross would go to marketing. 35% of your gross, okay, or 38%, would go to payroll. 10% would go to savings, minimum, and the rest would be general expenses. So you have your rent, which is 15. You have your marketing, which is 10. You have your payroll, which is 35. You have your savings, which is at least 10. The rest would be general expenses. Now, what you'll find is, let's say your gross is $60,000 or even, $40,000. And you say, geez, I don't need to spend $4,000 a month on marketing to sign up 20 new members. Good, then take that extra percentage and put it in the savings. And now you're saving 15% as opposed to the 10.
Awesome. Okay, I have one more, Mr. Garcia. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's see here. This is a really good one for a lot of people that are in this situation. Any recommendations on a one-man show moving into a plan like this on a low budget at first, such as a commission only?
Are we talking, I'm assuming we're talking about hiring somebody.
Yeah, let's read this again. Any recommendations on a one-man show moving into a plan like this on a low budget at first, such as commission only? I think they're talking about, yes, like adding.
Yeah, I think they're talking about hiring somebody. It's tough to do that because you're asking the person to put an awful lot of faith and trust in you without really any compensation in return. That said, you may find the right person who's willing to do that. I've heard people say, hey, I can't afford to pay you a salary, but I'll give you $100 for everyone that sign up, and you just take that off the down payment, or you give them the down payment. That may work. I think you'd have a better chance at selling that if you could go to them and say, this is our track record of how many people we currently sign up a month. So you can pretty much, if you listen to me, you can pretty much count on this much money per week. I think that in mind. There are things that you can do as a quote-unquote one-man show to get the gross up so that you can afford. And again, I don't mean to go back to this, but I think that's where Bill's excellent. Bill works with a lot of small schools, and he makes them big because he has a lot of experience problem solving. Like, we do intros in our school, and it's a big part of our marketing program. But I get it. He said, listen, this guy can't do an intro. He can't even afford a program director. But they have other ways that, for now, it's a Band-Aid to help you. All right, let's get the gross up so that you can afford to bring somebody in who can really take that off your shoulders.
And Mr. Garcia, another thing that I've been getting a lot of recently, which I think will probably be great in our next webinar, talking about training and payroll and staff and so forth. A lot of people are trying now to hire people to be independent contractors. And I just left the school. The school actually just left my office about a half hour ago. The person was an independent contractor. However, they were, telling them what time to be in. They were, treating them like an employee. And now the person went to the labor department, and now they're looking for $25,000.
Right.
Obviously, they do this initially to save money, but it actually ends up costing you more. So, like my attorney, like when I was looking at doing something for someone in my school, she goes, no, Nick, absolutely not. She was just like, are you asking them to do anything? I said, well, yeah, they're talking to the parents. She goes, that's it. That's all I needed to know. And I said, yeah. Well, you didn't even let me finish. She's like, yeah. It doesn't matter. If they're interacting, if they're talking, if they're just coming in and teaching a kickboxing class and leaving, that's a different story. But if you're asking them to call people, go to events, different things like that. So I think a lot of schools might be careful about thinking that they're going to save money on taxes, hiring somebody totally as an independent contractor. I mean, there's ways of hiring them partially, and then paying them a base salary, some type of consulting agreement but that's something's been coming up a lot recently with a lot of schools that I've been talking to.
And I think that's a good warning that you just gave everybody. I would only have to say two things to that. One, they should talk to an accountant, because you're absolutely right. If there's people in the IRS that are smarter than all of us put together, and they're going to make sure that they get paid. So, talk to your accountant and find out exactly for your state what the rules are in regards to subcontractors. And the second thing is, I just think that the focus is in the wrong area. Whatever money you think you're saving, you could probably put that effort and energy into getting the gross up.
Absolutely. And for the record, my father he's a retired 35-year IRS agent. And the one thing I just posted on the forum the other day, he goes, Nick, we always get our money.
Oh, my goodness, you're so right on that. They've got it all figured out. They've been at this for 200 years.
Yeah, especially in the past, probably about 5 or 6 years. A lot of companies have been doing that. So it's been, and they're when they start seeing that they're not making as much in taxes, that's when, now people go to labor departments, and like you said, contact your accountant. Also, you can just go on the IRS page, and it talks about the difference between a contractor and an employee.
There you go. I don't want to get off track, and I don't want to scare anybody. But I also know a school myself that was following a leadership program, and a part of the leadership program was that they required that the student had to teach so many times a week as a part of this program.
Violation.
And guess what happened? They had a falling out, and that person went to the labor department, and they got sued for, I don't know how much money it was, but not only did they have to pay that person minimum wage, but then they had to pay the taxes and the fines.
Yep. So be very careful. Well, that sounds like a pretty good topic in an upcoming webinar, Mr. Garcia. Something else we could talk about as far as like trying to take the shortcuts.
Yes, sir.
To save yourself money, it's going to cost you more in the long run, because once they have that falling out and then there's no income coming in, the first place they're going to go to is labor department.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, well, Mr. Garcia, another awesome webinar, and it was interesting. A little story before we finish. I'm actually I was at an event this weekend, and I ran into a Patriots fan. And the first thing he says, first thing he says to me, he goes, "I bet you hate Tom Brady." I said, "No, actually, I don't." He's like, "You don't hate Tom Brady?" I said, "Why would I hate him? He's awesome. He's a winner. I mean, like, he's one of the best quarterbacks." And then I started telling him about you, actually, and actually it was cool because now I actually got tickets because of my positive attitude to any one of the home games I want to go to for the Patriots this year.
Hey, listen, we can't be dropping names. I don't want to get in trouble, but you said about coming down to school on that Monday morning. Gerard Mayo will probably be there.
Awesome.
I'll introduce you to him. He trains at the school on Monday mornings.
I think I'm sure I was actually having a conversation. This is good for everybody too because you led off with talking about football. I was with a series of school owners, and the draft was last weekend, as you know.
That's right.
And I explained to them, I said, you don't understand, like, the marketing and how much this draft is, how important it is, and how this determines people's jobs and futures. Like, just watching the way these NFL teams operate, there's not a better model because the pressure is on them more than almost any business. Evaluating talent, looking at character when they're drafting players, which is the same thing as we need to do when we develop instructors. Just because someone's a great fighter doesn't necessarily, as we know, make them a great instructor.
Nick, if I can, and hopefully we still got people on. Last year, Tom Brady, when we lost our one of our receivers, was asked a question. This is a tell-all answer to the mindset of that team, and they asked him, "Who will be your favorite receiver now?"
Whoever's open.
What's that?
Whoever's open.
No, he said, "I expect them all equally to make a contribution."
Okay. That's
now
awesome.
You see, there's the mindset. And that's the mindset of what we talked about here in the payroll, is that you're paying people to make a contribution to the success of school, not just to show up and work, but to make a contribution to drive the school where we want it to be. And they're rewarded based on that conversation, just like football. If you're pulling, so many yards per carry, you're obviously going to get rewarded. How will you get rewarded? Your contract will be up, and that's going to have to be renegotiated now, because you're producing results.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I remember last year, like, there was receivers that I just never even heard of for the Patriots, and he made them look amazing. I mean, it was just it's very interesting. We talked about it before the Patriots, and I just hope my Eagles, Mr Garcia, I hope we could at least somehow just get to the Super Bowl in the next 10 years and just win one. I just want one Super Bowl. I'm happy.
I think you got a good leader there. You got a good coach.
I think so.
Yes.
He's put everything above, prime example again, and I think people might start, for the non-football fans, they might start getting a little bit bored of our conversation. But look who we cut. We just felt that Deshaun Jackson wasn't a good fit for our team. That's what, ultimately Chip Kelly thought. And we'll see what happens. But, I do feel like he's leading us in the right direction. It's all about teamwork and what's best for the team.
That's right.
We'll talk Monday when I see you. We'll have a big football conversation. But
there you go.
Mr. Garcia, as always, this was just amazing information for everybody. Thank you so much. Vahid, thank you for everything, putting this together for everybody. Mr. Garcia, anything you want to say in closing, sir?
No, I would just encourage everyone to go through the webinar again. It's a lot of information to digest the first time, and just remember the two principles. It's based on letting people experience a reward, not an incentive, for their contribution. I think that's the biggest thing, and it's about teaching your team what it takes to make the school tick. It's not just a matter, I think we all would agree, it's not just a matter of showing up teaching classes. I love teaching, and I love my students, and I love martial arts, but in order for me to give my people a future, it was my decision to open up a business, and I need to make sure that I'm responsible to that business, and part of that is learning this information.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garcia.
My pleasure. Thank you.